Hey everyone, welcome again to Disability Landscape. I'm Charlie Brose. I'm here again with our regular co-host, Mark Knudsen. Mark, who do we have today?
Well, today we've got an author that I found because I like reading thriller books, and I was curious to find something that involved a character that was also, that's disabled out there, out in the action.
Right.
And I found, not only did I find an author, he's a local author here from the Twin Cities. Brian Lutterman, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
I guess, me and Charlie, before I ask this question, the character that he writes about is named Penn Wilkinson, who is a attorney and is a paraplegic and uses a wheelchair. And what mine and Charlie, when I told Charlie about you, our first question was kind of wondering if you have a disability or how you decided to write about someone in a wheelchair, because you don't use a wheelchair, correct?
That's correct. Excuse me. Yeah, that's correct. How did I decide to
How did you come up? Well, how did the character come about?
The character came about when I read a book in the 90s by a gentleman named John Hockenberry. He was a reporter for public radio for many years and later appeared on public TV for a number of years, and he may still be involved in journalism of some kind, I don't know, but it was a memoir about his experiences as a journalist and trying to function in that role while using a wheelchair. And as I read it, I thought it would be interesting to have a character that would have to overcome some of these obstacles and face some of the reactions of people, and just a character who solves mysteries that was a little different. Now, I was not a published author at the time, but I was. I was wanted to be. I was writing thrillers, and it had not been published yet, and so. So I conceived of this idea in 1998.
Okay.
At that time, I was a stay-at-home parent, but it was not by choice. I was an attorney. Nobody's perfect, right?
Right, yeah. So, we're sorry to hear about that.
And anyway, I contracted an illness in 1987.
Oh, you did?
And it was an exceptionally nasty case of mononucleosis. And
oh, wow.
The symptoms, the fatigue, the overpowering fatigue that you feel when you have mono didn't go away.
Okay.
And so about a year later, I'm in a doctor's office, and I'm saying, chronic fatigue syndrome? What's that?
Right.
And,
sounds like a make-up thing.
Yeah, they said, we're not sure. And I said, well, what's the treatment? We don't have one.
Oh.
I said, well, how long does it last?
Right.
They said, well, you've had it for a little over a year now. I said, you've probably got it.
Oh.
And my reaction was, I'm sure similar to a lot of people when they when they get disabilities, it's a denial. I tell people it was like the classic line from A Few Good Men, where Jack Nicholson storms up, "You can't handle the truth," right? And I'm afraid that was me. I was 31 years old at the time. I was in the midst of my career. I had plans, as do a lot of people who have disabilities, and so anyway, shortly thereafter, I had to give up practicing law and and stay at home. And later on, I helped do what I could to help raise our kids. You know, so I have a disability.
Okay.
It's not one that anybody can see, and that has both advantages and disadvantages.
Right, exactly.
And you know, it's one that I've been fortunate in a number of ways. One is that I can still do a lot of things. You know, I sleep 11, 12 hours a night. I take naps in the
You
afternoon.
still do? Oh, so that,
I still do. I still have it today.
Okay.
It's basically complete exhaustion every minute of every day.
Wow.
That is difficult to deal with.
I would think so, yeah.
It's, you know, obviously different from the challenges that a lot of people with disabilities face, but it's it is
Still a
disabling nonetheless.
Right, yeah,
And
exactly, yep.
so anyway, I've got to believe that when the character of Penn Wilkinson kind of popped into out of my subconscious, fully formed in 1998, that my own experience was part of what went into it.
Okay.
And that, and plus reading the Hockenberry book, and I said, I want to give this a try. And so I wrote my first book, Penn Wilkinson series, and then I put it in a drawer and didn't look at it again for a dozen years.
What?
I,
Really?
I was writing other things,
Oh, gotcha.
and
okay,
and
okay.
I
Other books?
other books, and I
Were they thrillers then?
they're thrillers. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
all I'm
Yeah.
a one-trick pony. That's all I know how to do.
Right.
But the
That's a good trick to have.
it's been a lot of fun. I realized when I left my job that writing was the part of it that I missed the most.
Okay.
Although you know, from business and legal writing to thrillers, that's quite a
Yeah,
leap,
quite a
and
jump.
it's one
Right.
I had to work hard and learn how to do. It didn't come
Yep.
naturally, but so I put it in a drawer in part because I was discouraged at the time. I thought it was a pretty good book, but I was not succeeding in my efforts to get it published. And
Also,
so
you were sending it out and
I didn't send this one out at all.
Okay.
I was sending others out. And then finally in 2001, I did get a contract to publish my first thriller, which was called Bound to Die, which became a Minnesota Book Award runner-up, and which was very nice. But then I found out my competition was John Sanford, and well, you know, John sold a few million more books than I,
Yeah.
and so no hard feelings when
Right.
when he beat me, the most
I
obscure
suppose.
the most obscure author probably ever
Our
nominated.
bookshelf is filled with prey books.
Yeah, right. And I found out that there are more good titles involving the word prey than there are words involving the word the titles involving the word fall. So I'll talk about that.
Okay, you'll talk. Okay, keep on then. Yep.
But anyway, so I became published author in 2002. I published another standalone thriller called Poised to Kill in 2004. And then
No disabled folks in those, right? They're just
that's correct.
You took
That's
the whole
correct.
Thriller type.
That's
Yep.
correct. Just thrillers. And then, but my own disability kind of caught up with me at that point. We had
Okay.
our daughter was born, our second child, in 2002, and two kids proved to be approximately one more than I could handle. And so,
Yeah, I've got two kids.
yeah.
One is like, and you're like, oh yeah, I think I can do this, and then you get the second one, and you're like,
Okay.
man, I wish I would have stuck with the dogs, maybe.
Got sandbagged the first time around, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
But I love my kids now. I love my kids.
Absolutely. We were thrilled. We were blessed
Yeah,
when she
oh,
was
yeah.
born. But I didn't put out another book for another 10 years.
Wow.
And when I did, when I was ready to try again, when our kids were getting older, one graduated, I was
Okay.
ready to try again, and my original publisher was gone. The whole publishing world had changed quite a bit. I wasn't sure what to do.
Right, yeah.
And so I decided to pull that manuscript out of the drawer from the 90s and give that a try. And I found a channel for publishing that, and that book became Downfall.
Wow.
That is the first Penn Wilkinson book,
Okay.
published in 2014. And I now have, I just published the sixth book in the
Okay.
series. And so, anyway, I said Penn popped into my head more or less fully formed, and that's true. I mean, that happens sometimes, and sometimes you intentionally construct a character, but this one just, and I like this character a lot. I think most people do. She's feisty and funny,
Right.
and very resourceful. And I think maybe one of the things that people with disabilities like about her is that she can give as good as she gets. When people are insensitive, when people are rude, when people ask impertinent questions, when they try to bully her, because she can put them in their place with a lot of skill.
Yeah, because I just finished your latest one, Northville, and I know this isn't going to give away any plot, but I did love the part where she pulled up to handicap parking and an able-bodied person had parked there. And believe me, I'm sure Charlie might have done this already. She parks behind the car and blocks that person. Have you done that? I could see you doing that.
I've done that
Charlie.
once or twice.
Have you really?
Honestly, God, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of pictured Charlie, but I loved it because she just parked and then did her thing, came back out. The owner of the car was frustrated, but then she said, well, okay, let's bring the police here and get it resolved then. Oh, no, because, Minnesota's one of the states that has the highest fines, like $200.
Yes, we're
for
pretty tough
handicap
on it,
parking.
yes.
Or down south, it's like $25. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Right.
So, did you have to do any research into how a wheelchair user
Right, yeah.
behaves? acts?
Yes, I did. I did not really know any paraplegics. I had some experience with my mother, who was unable to walk for the last 10 years of her life.
Sure.
Used a wheelchair, but she rarely left the house and really did not have to deal with situations on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I consulted a couple of people who were paraplegics, and I got to see the nifty van that he used, and
Right, yeah.
and I did some other research online and so on, but that kind of brought me to a decision point, and that is,
Oh, did
it did, because I needed, the more I researched, the more I had to ask myself, how much of this do I really want to use? How much do I want to focus on my character having a disability? And I
Do I really want to drill down too much?
right, because
on
you can
that?
go down the rabbit hole pretty far with
Yeah,
that
sure.
if you want.
Yeah.
And I am first, foremost, and always a mystery thriller author, and and that's why I expect that people will want to read my books. And my character has a disability that is significant. It affects her life. It affects what she does in the book. But that is not who she is, and that's
Right.
not her reason for what she does. It's a person who solves mysteries who has a disability, and not a person with a disability who solves
Right.
In
Right,
that,
and it's not a character that's out there trying to get inspiration, because just from what I've read about, the character Penn Wilkinson, I think if you went up to her and said she's special or pat her on her head, she'd run you over.
yes, and it's a good thing her leg doesn't work, because she
Yeah.
might use it to give you
Right,
a
right.
swift kick.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. So I just like how the character is just out there and not necessarily brutal, but has got the edge. Has got an edge
Yeah,
to her.
she was an aggressive trial lawyer in her previous life, and
Right,
she's
yep.
continued with that kind of personality. But at any rate, so I decided I really didn't want to drill down too far on the details of her disability, because I wanted her to be, I think, like most disabled people, live their lives. Their disability is significant. It affects everything they do, but that's not why they're here. That's not who they are. They do something,
Right.
and I tried to use that same concept in telling the story of a disabled person. And so my stories take place, at least to a greater or lesser extent, in each book in the corporate world. That's what I know, and
Yeah,
of
'cause
course
that's your
they tell you
background
that
attorney.
they tell
Yeah,
you to
that's
write
what I kinda-
what you know.
That's
and,
what I was kind
right.
of figuring, the corporate side of
Right,
things.
and she is an attorney, and she over the course of this series gets into a number of sticky problems and adventures, and actually physical danger and violence, and her disability definitely comes into play.
Right, yep.
And anyway, I had to learn how to handle, though, not just these action scenes, but every type of scene in the book. It plays into everything. When she goes to interview somebody at their house, what does she do? She conducts
can't get in,
she
right?
conducts a lot of interviews in driveways and
Yeah.
garages,
Right.
and
That's
you know,
exactly, that's
Front
that-
sidewalks
yeah.
or something like that.
That's what I like, is she just goes there and sees what the situation, and
Right.
and then, we got to make it work.
right.
Have you ever put her in a situation where you're going to write that out and go, oh my God, I can't get her out of this?
I've come close.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've come close, and I guess I don't have an example that comes
Right,
immediately
right,
to mind,
right.
but yeah, it happens with some frequency that it's just an extension of the same problem I think I was just talking about. Is just you get her into an ordinary situation where she's got to talk to this person, but she can't ring the doorbell. She can't,
Right.
can't go into the house, and what does she do? It's and that happens with some frequency.
Now, many of your stories, or all the stories, mostly take part in the Midwest, correct?
Well, they
All over?
All over, yeah.
every one of my books takes place at least in part in Minnesota,
Sure.
Right, yep.
Okay.
and several of them entirely in Minnesota.
Okay.
But Penn actually lives in California.
Oh, okay.
And that was a bit of a problem.
And grew
People
up in
say,
Florida.
and grew up in Florida.
Right.
Yes, it's been a bit of a problem in selling my book. People say, "Oh, you're a local author, great. What part of Minnesota does your book take place?" I said, "Oh, well, that would be Newport Beach, Minnesota." But it's and Penn is in a long-term relationship. She has a boyfriend.
That's I wanted to
Okay.
talk to you about, which I think is a very good topic, is the relationship, because her relationship is with someone who is able-bodied.
They're an interabled couple, if I
Right,
understand
yeah,
the term
yeah,
correctly.
Yeah, interabled couple, and so she has, and he's has an ex-wife, so Penn has her self-doubts, being a
Yes.
lady in a wheelchair too, and
Maintaining a relationship with somebody who's
able-bodied.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really liked how you bring that into, so people understand, us disabled people, we do have relationships.
Right. And her boyfriend tends to be, in part because of her disability, tends to be overprotective. Although I think maybe not overprotective. He's probably justified being as
for the situation she puts herself in.
being as concerned as he is. He's probably justified, and that but she wants to remain fiercely independent and do her own thing and not be limited. And and I think maybe that's one of her flaws. I think even prior to her disability, Penn was a person who probably found it hard to be vulnerable, to show any weakness, to show any dependence of any kind. And after having a disability, she is probably even more so, and maybe even kind of a chip on her shoulder. To
So
that's kind
a
of
defense mechanism for
I
her?
think so, yeah. And unlike the heroes of some thrillers who are involved in violent situations and they don't just kind of pick themselves up and walk away from it and
Right.
on to the next episode, Penn does suffer consequences as a result of being in these situations. She actually suffers some trauma and some PTSD, and that too becomes a point of contention with her friend.
In writing the books, have you considered how has she come to terms with her disability?
I think it's a process, and I think the answer is yes. It's not a straightforward, straight line process. It'd be 2 steps forward and 1 back, probably. But yes, there were some milestones along the way where she discovered that when she realized, after the urging of everyone, that she really needed to get some help for her PTSD, and that led her to some other realizations that she really does have some limitations and does need to accept those, and that doing that is not a sign of dependence or weakness. It's just acknowledging reality, and that's the process she goes on through.
For many people who become disabled later in life, there's denial, there's difficulty accepting the disability, and some go, well, forget this, I'm going to wake up one day and walk again.
Yes, I think that's, there are probably a lot of people who are, spend a lot of time on researching various treatments, technologies, whatnot. And Penn, I don't think, has done a lot of that. I think she has accepted that she will not, in all likelihood, not walk
Right.
again. But
And that she has this disability, and that she's going to make the best of what she has.
right.
It's kind of really, from the sense I get from her, she just lives in the moment, she's looking for a future somewhat, but not as far as what her disability is going to be.
Right.
Right.
It's
right.
It's okay. These are my goal plans, life plans. What am I going to have? What am I going to have to do to do that? Now I'm going to have.
That's a really good. I never thought of that, but I think that's really true, and it's probably true for all of us as well. You really, we're a lot less inclined to do 10-year master plans when on a day-to-day basis you've got to deal with disability.
Especially I think sometimes with a disability, because you have to kind of be in the moment with your disability. People ask, what's your 5-year plan? I'm just wondering what my body's going to be in 5 years,
Right.
and stuff like that. Yeah. Before we go, I'm just going to ask you real quick, put your creative hat on. Now, if me and Charlie were in one of your books, you always have to come up with names. What would our names be?
Oh, I can't imagine you as anybody other than Mark and Charlie. And you want to do it, fellas? I mean, I need comic relief for some of that.
There you go. Yeah.
I just have a quick question. Being a male author, is it difficult writing about from a female perspective?
Yeah.
Yes, actually, I've discussed that. I do a lot of talks, presentations, panel discussions, and that's a topic that comes up quite a bit more often than the disability.
Really?
Is how do I write for a female character?
Yeah.
And beyond that, I decided to make it a little harder for myself. I actually write in the first-person voice of that female character.
Yeah, that makes it a lot more difficult.
So it's a challenge. The answer is I have no idea why I started. I just imagined Penn, and I said, this is my character,
Okay.
and this is what I want to work with, and I can hear her voice. I can imagine her mannerisms. I can imagine myself slinking away after an encounter with her and after saying something insensitive. And so I can imagine trying a case with her. It's all I can say, Charlie, is I just imagined the character and decided to go with it.
Well, that's the way it works for you then.
So,
In this case, yeah.
Yeah, we come to the end here, but real quickly, you've got a website because you tend to do book signings
Oh
throughout.
yeah. I've got a Facebook page. I've got a web page, brianlutterman.com.
Okay.
I picked the name myself.
There you go, yeah.
I've got my new book, North Fall. This is released last week.
Awesome.
Wow.
This is the 6th book in the series now.
Okay.
And I'm also part of a group of authors that we put together called the Midwest Mystery Works. That 5 independent authors here in Minnesota. We all write in similar genres, and a great bunch. It's been a lot of fun with these
Cool.
folks, and so that's I'm easy to find. Just look me up.
And the book is sold wherever books are found?
Well, it doesn't have a lot of bookstore distribution,
Okay.
so you can resort to the online
Yeah.
stores,
Go to
which I think
Amazon
mostly, to the,
And have it tomorrow.
Yep.
yeah,
Or go to
Yeah.
brianlutterman.com
and
and see where the
just follow the links. From there,
book
yeah.
signings are coming up.
Right, or come and see me at one of my
Yeah, come
signings, absolutely.
Come see him at a
Right.
signing and,
Right.
and that. So hurry up and write another book, so we'll have you back. Maybe we'll even have you.
I'm working on it. It'd be great.
Yeah. So,
So.
well, thank you, Brian.
Want to
Thank
thank
you.
Brian Lutterman, my co-host Mark Knudsen. I'm Charlie Brose. This is another episode of Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.